Hello and welcome back to the Weekly Gaming News Show. I'm your host Sony, and on this week's episode we've got news from PUBG's ever-growing anti-cheat problem, The Division 2, and also a small game publisher slash developer assisting one of their longtime partners in a few financial issues. To start off, let's talk about Chucklefish buying out Pathway. Now, if you don't know who Chucklefish is, I wouldn't be too surprised, and I wouldn't even blame you all that much either. They're behind games like Stardew Valley, Starbound, and also soon to come Wargrove. But what is Pathway and why are they buying it out? Well, a development company named Robotility? I can't pronounce that name for the life of me. But they've partnered up with Chucklefish in the past. They've made the game Hallway, which is It's like XCOM, essentially, but it's 16 or 8-bit, and it's sci-fi based, and it looks genuinely really cool. And for £10 on Steam, I find a hard reason not to recommend you this game. It looks great, it looks interesting, and it's pretty damn cheap. So after the success of Halfway, they decided to make Pathway, a game that looks very similar, if anything, is almost like a spiritual successor to Halfway. And Pathway seems to take on more of a story approach. You seem to have more of a world to explore alongside of fight in. And it isn't sci-fi based, but it still looks very interesting. And it kind of reminds me of Indiana Jones, based on the trailer alone. Now, Chucklefish have partnered with with Robotility on Halfway before, but they decided to buy out Pathway completely. Now, from what what I've seen and what I've tried to find, it looks like Robotility is still developing the game. It's just under Chucklefish's wing, I guess. Now, do I have any worries about that? No, not really. I mean, Chucklefish is a pretty great company. From what I've heard, they actually care about what games that they're putting out there and what games they're partnering up with. That's why all the games that you see them partnered up with are actually pretty cool. They take interesting designs using the 16 or 8-bit aesthetic and build upon them, which is always great to see in the gaming industry. Somebody who's willing to make games that don't look conventionally traditional, but definitely are fun to play and work, and also unique. Like I said, I've only seen the trailer because right now there only is a trailer as of this time of recording that is present to us, but hopefully we get more insight on this game. And honestly, this game, I don't know, if it goes anyway like Halfway did, then I have no reason to think this game is going to falter. If anything, I think it's going to be a pretty cool game. Moving swiftly along to PUBG's issues. We've spoken in the past about PUBG having bugs, glitches, and even cheating issues in the past, but on March 9th they rolled out a update to their servers to help combat all the cheating, and a lot of people saying it was pretty good, it was pretty effective, but a lot more people said that it made that game incredibly unstable and just kept crashing in and midway through a game. And obviously you don't want your game to be crashing when people are playing the game, especially when the problem causing the crashing is something you implemented in the game yourself. That's something you have to iron out very quickly. So in 2 days, they decided to scrap that update entirely and work out all the kinks first. Now, I feel like there was a bit of oversight on this, but I don't feel like they entirely tested the anti-cheat system on a large amount of systems. From what I know, they test them on their own systems in their studio, but the PUBG team don't really seem to, I don't know, they don't seem to entirely know how to optimize very well. And optimizing is that's a very important word, because that game on release was very poorly optimized, especially for the Xbox One. Hopefully that's been sorted out and everything on the Xbox One side is sorted out to minimize damage control as a whole. And honestly, I think this deals more of a blow than it does to the players than it does to the developers. The developers, they still have a working game, they still have something to say, this is here and it's out there, but the players, they still have to deal with the cheating, and without them pushing as hard as they were with a anti-cheat system, or one that works more effectively, players are going to be just dealing with this for a while, I think. But I have faith in them. I do hope they do fix their issues with the cheating. Like I said, I do have faith in the company and the development studio, and I do hope they make the smarter decisions, especially going forwards with how this game is currently and where this game is definitely heading, which is not a good place right now. But opening it up to you, but what do you think of the anti-cheat system or just the major issues in the game currently, and do you think they're ever going to be able to iron them out, whether sooner than later, or do you think it's going to be something slow and steady, and maybe in a year's time this game is going to be the game it was supposed to be on launch? On to our last but definitely not least story, The Division 2 has been announced. Now, The Division's been out for 2 years, and it's sad to see that they're not going for a 3rd year, but I'm also really glad that they're definitely pushing to do better, because when they announced that they're definitely releasing a Division 2, they also said things like they're going to update the engine, we're going to be getting Frostbite Engine 2.0, which is really exciting to see, since Frostbite Engine 1 right now is an amazing engine and gives us just the greatest graphics I've ever seen in a game of this magnitude. That and The Division right now has been more playable than ever. I've sunk so many hours into the game. I think I'm bordering 150 to 200 hours in the game right now, and it's so fun. It's a genuinely good game. I understand if you don't like the game because you played it at launch or you played the beta and didn't enjoy it, but all I can say from that is it's a totally different game now because they've reworked almost every last aspect that was launched with the full game. Now let's talk about the history, because it's important to know what they got right and what they got wrong, and to see where they may slip up again. When they first launched The Division, the Frostbite engine worked, but it didn't work on servers, which meant players were experiencing many bugs not only with the servers but with their in-game world, since this is an online-only game. Now, these bugs ranged from either a lot of netcode issues that are still in the game right now, which they don't seem to be able to iron out, and all the way to people falling through random places in the map, random animations playing, rendering you unable to fire your weapon, especially in PvP, which is annoying. And generally, the game was a buggy mess, especially with the enemies. Like, sometimes you'd actually shoot 3-4 clips into a, let's say, veteran enemy, the ones with purple icons above their heads, and they wouldn't die. Now, they have changed that, so it is more balanced. They've changed a lot of things, actually. Everything is more balanced than it's ever been, and I think the game is much more playable now. A lot of people, especially my friends, have been saying, Sony, should I get The Division, the first game, to understand the second game? Do I need to play the first game? Do you think it's recommended for me to play the first game to know what I'm getting into? And for that, I say no, you don't at all. As far as story is concerned, The Division story is only there to serve as a driving point, not the central basis of the game. It's only there for you to essentially get to the next level and level up to get to late game. And late game is where more of the fun continues and also begins to expand a lot more. But that depends on what kind of gamer you are with these types of games. And in terms of gameplay, if you've never played The Division and you would actually like to get into it to see what it's like, you don't have to buy the game. You can get the trial. It gives you 15 levels, or at least until you get to level 15, to play the game. Which, in my opinion, is a little short. I feel like they should extend it to 20, maybe 25, so you're near the late game. Because by the time you get to level 15, you haven't even done like half of the main quests. I mean, unless you're a very good player and you know what you're doing in The Division already, you could probably get through half the game with basic gear and just under 15 levels. But if you're very new to the game and you've never picked it up before, 15 seems a little too short for me. And one last thing before I close off, I hope they put content in it. I understand The Division had 3 expansions and they're good expansions, but very few of them actually added in notable content. And I think the most notable one is Survival, because that game mode is so fun. Why is nobody playing it? I don't know. But I'm glad to see that the community has organized a Survival Saturday, which every Saturday everybody just queues up for Survival, or at least most people do. And generally, I think that's what makes a good community. when the community realizes, okay, this certain feature in a game is not being utilized in the community as much. Let's organize a community-wide date or a schedule where a bunch of people who want to utilize it more can on that date. And even in the Lawbreakers community, yeah, they may not have more than 100 concurrent players at any given time, but the immensely small community they do organize regular custom games with each other. I'm actually still talking to those guys, and they're wonderful people. So yeah, if you ever want to develop a big game with a community, make sure your community comes first, and anything else comes second, because the community can really carry your game further than you may anticipate. So that's been it for this week's gaming news show. Tune in next week, where hopefully we'll have more interesting things. I mean, everything this week has been interesting, but I feel like we could have done more. News felt kind of dry when researching this stuff, but hey, what can you do, I guess. Anyway, leave your comments down below, and I'll catch you in the next one.